It is my pleasure to have on Nyberg today, Corey Hudson. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
You've quite the story to tell, and you tell it through photos. You picked up a camera one day, you take pictures of strangers, and you tell their stories. And you've been able to already put everything in a book called Every Heart Has a Story to Tell. And this is it right here, and you can find it on Amazon. Go out and get it, it's really good. All right, before we start talking, I want to show a video that kind of sets the scene for what it is that you're doing in your life. Okay. So let's watch that.
It was almost 2 years ago that I found myself in a very dark place. I was very isolated, depressed, using drugs and alcohol to numb the pain and grief that I was experiencing, and I didn't know how to ask for help. I ended up becoming suicidal and ended myself in a hospital for about 10 days. While I was there, I realized the importance of sharing our human experiences with each other, and the power of doing that allows people to connect with one another in a meaningful way. And it allowed me to recognize that my situation wasn't so bad. I felt inspired to connect my photography and my passion for psychology and helping other human beings in some way that would inspire people.
Corey, what a story. You're from Massachusetts.
Mm-hmm.
You grow up, you have what kind of a childhood?
I had a difficult childhood. I grew up as an artist and also came to terms with my sexuality at a fairly early age, and struggled a lot with that, as well as my parents going through a divorce as I was entering high school. So I had sort of a rocky start.
How did you finally emerge to tell the world who you are, what you were going to do with your life? And there were some really low moments, and you talked in the video about suicide, drugs, alcohol. Tell me about that, because I want somebody to listen to your story that says, that could be me, and look what happened to Corey. He got out and he's telling other people's stories.
I was sort of like an airplane that was continuing to try to take off the ground, and there were quite a few times that I hit the pavement pretty hard, and it was usually attributed to relationships in my life and not being able to accept who I was and to love myself. I turned to things that I used as a teenager to cope with pain and grief, alcohol, drugs, isolation, and it wasn't until I allowed myself to really utilize some of my gifts and talents to express how I was feeling that I sort of found some freedom and was able to lift the weight off my shoulders and share who I was with people. It took me a long time, and most recently, my most recent suicide attempt was what really, I think, freed me completely, because I was no longer able to hide. I was completely vulnerable, completely honest. I couldn't deny where I was in my life anymore, and I found that people accepted me and still loved me.
That was a cry for help.
Yeah.
Did you really want out, or was it a cry for help that you wanted mom, dad, cousins, friends to say, I can't do this anymore, but I need to tell you who I am?
It was a cry for help. I didn't know how to ask for the help that I needed, and I kept trying to do it on my own. I kept trying to convey to everyone else that I was okay, and on the inside I was falling to pieces. And that is definitely one of the messages that I think is so huge in all of this, is that we all go through something internally, and we may be falling apart but wearing a smile on our face, and we're not doing ourselves any service or anyone else by hiding that.
When you finally came out with who Corey was to your family, what did they say to you?
Well, my mother, she felt, at the time when I came out to my mother, I thought I was bisexual because I had a girlfriend previously. So she said I could be gay or I could be straight, but I couldn't be bisexual and live in her house. And my father, I didn't have a strong relationship with him, so I felt more comfortable writing to him. And I wrote him a letter, which when I later talked to him about it, he thought that maybe I could take some medication for for who I was.
So they didn't understand?
They didn't understand it.
Do they understand now?
They do, only because I've been able to share with them who I am. You know, it's not that I am my sexuality or am any of these other aspects. It's who I am as a person. And when they can love that and see that and they're a part of that, it's helped them embrace me and understand me in ways that they probably never would have.
Now, part of you getting well was picking up that camera.
Yes.
Tell me the first day you did that and you started taking photos, lots of photos.
Yes. I was down and out. I went through a severe depression while I was working at Yale University. And
doing what?
As a chef. I was a chef for about 21 years. And
you don't look that old.
Thank you. Yeah, I lost my job. They had given me as many opportunities as they could for me to get help, and I just couldn't seem to do it. And after I lost my job, I had a lot of time on my hands, and I picked up a very inexpensive camera, and I had no car, so I found myself wandering around the streets of New Haven looking for things to photograph. And the things that caught my eye were ordinary things that the light would hit in a certain way, and it would just illuminate it. And I started sharing the photos with my friends and family on Facebook, and people started to really respond to the way that I saw the world around me.
So you start taking pictures, and then you get an idea. We pointed out this book, Every Heart Has a Story to Tell. Did you then start to focus on people because you wanted to tell their stories? Tell me about that.
It was sort of accidental. What happened was when I got out of the hospital, I knew that I wanted to connect my photography and inspiring words, quotes, and I didn't know how that was going to come together. And I had a friend who I met with, and I talked about the idea, and she said, "Have you seen Humans of New York? It's a photojournalism project."
I know the project.
Yeah, and her project was centered around gratitude. So she wanted me to go out and talk to people about what they were grateful for and photograph them. And I started doing that, and 7 months into volunteering my time, I collected over 1,200 interviews and portraits. And I realized in the process of doing that, that the things that really resonated with people were sort of the darker stories, the things that led people to be more appreciative of their life and the things and the people in them. And that's really when I sort of took a turn and decided I want to tell these stories. I want to go to the dark places and bring people to the light.
Now you live in Orange.
Yes.
And you're spending your time in New Haven and other places.
Mm-hmm.
Who are you seeking out? Do you see them across the street? Do you see them homeless on the green in New Haven? Who are you? And once you find them, how do you get them comfortable enough to tell their story to you? Do you start telling them your story?
I do. I often do. The first thing that catches my eye is I tend to notice people who are withdrawn, and I gravitate towards them. And the first thing that I do is I offer to take their photo in a very humble, very sweet nature. And once I get that secured, and it's usually very flattering for someone to offer to take your photo, so I think that intrigues them. And then I start telling them, you know, I would like to, you know, talk to you about your story, or I'd like to interview you, ask you some questions. And what ends up unraveling, just it blows my mind every time that people feel so comfortable in opening up to me. And I think a big part of that is just that I'm willing to listen, I'm present, I put all of my cards on the table, and I think it gives them the courage to do the same thing.
Think of the people that you're helping. Now, you started a Kickstarter program, and you got more than $3,000,
Mm-hmm.
and thereabouts October 1st or so, you're going to start and go to California and take pictures and tell stories.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any idea of what's going to happen on that journey, or it's just going to unfold?
I have no idea. I'm totally open to wherever the path may lead me. I don't even have any pinpoints along the way. I'm just going to get in the car and see who I connect with and where I end up. I think it's going to be an incredible journey. It's going to change my life and hopefully change the lives of many people along the way.
And there's going to be more books.
Yes.
Lots more books.
Yes.
Lots more stories. What do your relatives, your mom and dad, say to you now that you're an author, you're a photographer, you're getting your life together?
Mm-hmm.
What are the conversations like now?
My mother is extremely proud. I think she feels like she has been a parent to some sort of celebrity.
There you go.
And I think my father is, he's not as outwardly expressive, but I know that he is really connected with what I'm doing in some very meaningful ways. You know, whenever we talk about what I'm doing, it sort of brings things out of him that he's been carrying around for years. So it has an impact on everyone in my life.
You're going to have to go back and get another degree in becoming a therapist or something, which is what you're doing. Just in summing up, who are you now? Who was Corey Hudson now, as opposed to when you started this?
I think I'm a person who has a message to bring to the world. I've learned how to love myself, which I think was one of the hardest things that I ever learned how to do. And now that I'm capable of it, I have something to bring to the table and to the world. And I want to deliver that message in whatever means I can. And whether that means my writing, my photography, connecting with people, that's what I'm here to do.
Well, Corey Hudson, you're a hero to many now. I hope you know that.
Thank you.
And thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
When one this in, who is this girl? Spend all night kissing and the ball's right here, then who else is missing? Got a little sidetracked if I'm so wishing to find the keys to the door, but it's also a metaphor. Things keep locked in the grocery store, but mine, just to save time, skip right ahead to the last ride. The harder we look, the less we can see. Don't you know, you know that you need me.